市气象台连续发布了大雾黄色预警。这个雾霾呢，昨天再次笼罩了我国的中东部地区。中央气象台昨天上午发布了
让听众介绍，今年以来，中国平均雾霾日数为52年来最多。刚刚过去的10月份，中东部雾霾。
Through the fog of uncertainties that may shroud the future, we all cherish some sort of dream. For the 3rd century scholar-poet Tao Yuanming, it was his utopian vision of the peach blossom spring. Some have sought to achieve their dreams through extravagant expenditure, palaces for dancing girls and concubines. But such dreams never last, even for the few who can make them come true. However, Tao Yuanming's vision of simplicity has stood the test of time, haunting Chinese dreams ever since. Can we ever find a way to that perfect land? From the spirit of the forest, bamboo has become the essence of the Chinese garden. Strong, flexible, fast-growing, it's one of the most valuable materials known to man. It can serve 1,000 purposes, from cooking and drinking vessels to spear shafts, from scaffolding to nourishment. Nourishment for body and soul. Seclusion in a bamboo grove has been celebrated by poets and artists throughout history. Ji Kang was one of the 7 sages of the bamboo grove. Ji famously liked to play the guqian, while his friend Ruan Ji would rail at the heavens. Yuan was given to extravagant behavior, driving his carriage at full tilt through the forest, stopping only to empty his lungs with vigor. In the summer of 263, 3,000 scholars knelt before the emperor to petition for the life of a condemned man. The convict was Ji Kang. What had brought him to this?
听说巨元兄您升官了，我感到十分忧虑。恐怕您不好意思独自做官，要拉我充当助手，这等于使我手执屠刀，也沾上腥臊气味。
The words were addressed to Ji's friend, Shan Tao. Shan once noted that Ji stood like a pine tree, and when he was drunk, he was like a falling mountain of jade. Ji's fine looks attracted the attention of an imperial princess, and his subsequent marriage got him embroiled in the politics of the Wei dynasty. However, the Wei was but one of the three dynasties that ruled different parts of a now divided empire. They were locked in a fierce rivalry within and without their domain. In particular, the Sima clan threatened the dynasty's grip on power. After Cao Mao, the fourth emperor in the Wei succession, angrily denounced Sima Zhao's ambition, he was assassinated by one of Sima Zhao's officers. After the Sima clan seized the throne, Sima Zhao wanted to draw Ji Kang into his orbit by offering him an official post. Ji's acceptance of the offer would be seen as a powerful endorsement of the Sima clan's usurpation of power. Ji was not prepared to play along.
我年幼时失去父亲，母亲和哥哥对我很娇宠。不用去读那些凶神治世的经书，读了庄子和老子，我的行为更加放任，好像麋鹿一样。如果从小就驯服养育，就会服从主人的管教；如果长大以后再加以束缚，那就一定会疯狂地乱蹦乱跳，企图挣脱羁绊他的绳索。虽然给他戴上金的龙头，喂他最精美的饲料，但他还是强烈思念着生活惯了的茂密树林和丰美的百草。
Ji Kang sought to retreat from the pressure to join official life in the Tianmen Mountains, northeast of the capital at Luoyang. There, he was gradually joined by other Refusenic scholar officials, the 7 sages of the Bamboo Grove. According to legend, Ji became a blacksmith, building a forge in his backyard and channeling spring water to fill a quenching pond. The mountain forests were his unrestricted garden.
"山野里的人以太阳晒背为最愉快的事，以芹菜为最美的食物，因此想把它献给君主。虽然出于一片至诚，但却太不合实际了。希望您不要像他们那样。写这封信，既是为了向您把事情说清楚，也是向您告别。嵇康金崎。"
Ji Kang embraced nature, and it embraced him. Ji's letter was an attempt to try to break off his friendship with Shan Tao. This was partly to protect Shan from association with Ji. Ji's refusal to serve Sima Zhao's new Jin dynasty would seal his fate. Ji Kang declared that his son would never be an orphan, as long as his friend Shantao was alive. Before his execution, Ji asked for his guqin and played his beloved instrument during his final hours. Ji was 39 when he was executed. His companion, Ruanji, died the same year. The histories of the era are littered with accounts of such tales of loss and woe. Ji was mourned by his princess bride. In China, it sprang from a particular reading of a classic Taoist Lao Zhuang philosophy. It exerts such a powerful hold on the Chinese imagination that inevitably it would be transported and reconfigured in the classic Chinese garden.
我觉得我是一个特别矛盾的人。我生活在一个大都市里边，虽然心里边有那么多的不满，同时你又离不开它。
Yang Yongliang is a contemporary artist. He was born in 1980. These illusory landscapes are composed from thousands of images of cities, an apparently bucolic scene concocted from industrial elements. He began photographing urban wastelands in 2009 as part of his own Peach Blossom Spring project. The camera is his brush. He wanted to piece together a landscape that is being lost in the gap between modernity and a more natural way of living.
我是嘉定长大的，那边有一个挺有名的一个园子，在上海算是，就是宋朝到现在的那个秋霞湖。我等于是小的时候就一直在那个园子里边玩。那个园子特别好，没人。你会觉得这个园子就像自己家的后花园。
出站的乘客，请手持车票依次登回车厢。
大学之后开始就是等于是住在上海。城市有城市的气味、味道，这个和在园林里啊，或者是大自然的感觉是，这种味道是完全不同的。繁杂的，然后杂乱的。
In the autumn of 405 AD, 41-year-old Tao Yuanming, wearied of the venality and corruption of official life, resigned from service to the Jin court and went into retirement. He returned to near where he was born, living on the southern slopes of Mount Lu, near today's Zhujiang in Jiangxi province. He adopted a pastoral life, but remained a prolific writer, becoming the best-known poet of his era.
我之前的作品一直是以城市，和山水为主题嘛，但是慢慢的我发现，其实更多的其实是一种人和城市的关系。有两种美，一种是自然界创造的美，一种是人类创造的美。它是为人度身定做的，这个就是为什么人还是会喜欢城市。
When the weather is right, Yang Yongliang snaps photos in Shanghai's Lujiazui for his work Peach Blossom Project. The skyscrapers cannot be denied their place in Yang's vision. In the summer of 408, Tao Yuanming's house was burnt to the ground. His family had to take refuge, living under an upturned boat on the site of their former home. In the fall of 427, Tao Yuanming passed away, aged 63, at his home on the southern slopes of Mount Lu. It's September now. It's cold and the night seems endless. Wild geese are flying southward. All the plants have withered. I'll pass away and return to where I came from. For Tao, death was a form of freedom, a release from the constrictions of our mortal coil. Tao has inspired many followers down the centuries. The great Tang Dynasty poets Li Bai and Du Fu were both admirers of his work. A blizzard descends around Zhejiang's Kuaiji mountain. As darkness falls, the world is shrouded in white. One day, in the late 4th century, writer and recluse Wang Huizhi sets out to visit a fellow recluse, Dai Kui, who lives many miles away. After traveling through the night along the river, Wang reaches Dai's home. But instead of knocking on the door, Wang simply turns around and goes home. When asked to explain his behavior, Wang responded, "Having traveled here in such high spirits, what need have I to disturb my friend's repose?" Like Wang and Dai in their day, Lin Gufang is a prominent cultural figure. In Taiwan, he's known as a Zen Buddhist, musician, and critic. According to the man himself, though, he's just a happy farmer.
我一般来讲就是早上起来6点起床，6点起床，就在这个地方喂鱼啦、修一修啦、拔拔杂草。这个其实海拔差不多不到100公尺，可是你看上来以后，转个弯，就是另外一方天地，跟人生一样啊。人生有时就是你顺着它那样走啊，它就是世俗啊。你会转个身哈，其实不一定要有多少条件，一转个身，我常常讲，你回眸一望，满目青山，然后每天就做老农老仆啊。 跟这些鱼啊，跟这些树啊做朋友。你看这个纹路多漂亮，有没有？网状的纹路多漂亮。 这种鱼啊，叫落叶，就它的这个秋天的颜色。可这条落叶很特殊，你可以发觉它闪闪发亮，漂亮吧？在这只鱼的时候要很小心，大鱼啊拿起来一定要完全平稳，只要有一点点折到就完蛋。 他们啊，真的养鱼的，会有一个小小的渔网，是长形的，然后这个是布做的，他就让它整个进去，鱼没有见到光的时候就不会乱跳，就不会因为我们不常弄，所以就没有那个设定。安全。 大鱼 一个人没办法，很不容易就把它，一不小心就把它弄死。用条比较保险。
Lin's fish fancying is well known among his associates. He sometimes gifts his charges to them. Today's roundup are for his friend Lin Binghui, who runs the Shiyang Culture Restaurant.
在台湾养锦鲤的人有这样一个习惯，就是家里总会养一条比较暗色、不张扬，可是却有着一定大气的这样的一个鱼。从一种美学来看的话，或者一种人生的修养来看的话，把一种不张扬、精华内蕴的东西当成最宝贵的，其实也是一个蛮好的念题呀。所以原来，这一条鱼在家里就比较特殊，我就想说，如果饲养这个新的空间好以后，我就把它送去当成一个新居落成的礼物嘛。叫人来帮忙搬一只大鱼，要先放在这，这以后是大鱼，要2个人哦，要2个人。哇，你看多家哦，而且制成鳞片，你看啊，它这个真的像王者之尊，对不对？啊，这样子了，嘿。闪闪，而且这种就是秋叶嘛，它这个秋叶是银秋，会闪闪发亮，银色的，而且你看那个网目颜色很少看，很少看，网目，这个一定要在水清的地方。你要先放到水，先放水，现在还不能够把鱼抓出来，因为要把水温里外的水温你看这些都是我的鱼，这多大？你看，我们半个钟头以后再来。对的，这个地方其实就是一个我们意中的原理，因为它不是自然，可你发觉它跟自然的对接多好。第一个是，无论是跟原来的野溪是合在一块的，有些地方它没整理过的这个自然的林木也是合在一块的。我在谈饲养的3个地点的时候，谈到在阳明山上你没有去过的，我说是当代的辋川，可以达到一种极致。可是到了这个地方，它已入未尽，所以平原不再是隔起来，它就是人跟自然呼应之下，或者甚至更甚的一体之下的产物。所以在这个地方，园林是使人回归自然，而不是让自然变成人的把玩或者辖玩之物。
The Shiyang Culture Restaurant was designed by its owner, Lin Binghui. It is exquisite, but not overly formal. It has the air of a Zen garden. Friends often drop by. Wang Huizhe, the winter visitor who declined to disturb his friend's peace and quiet, had another enigmatic encounter. Traveling to the Jin capital to take up office, he came across a carriage on the road. Inquiring who was traveling in it, he was told it was Huan Yi, also on his way to the capital to be honored by the emperor. Huan was renowned as a musician and flautist. Wang sent a request to Huan that he might play. Huan looked askance for a while, but then began to play. Huan played the Plum Blossom Melody, one of his own compositions. After he finished playing, he and Wang went their separate ways, without exchanging a single word.
这个养鱼其实是一种心情。我们中国人讲悠游悠游，你如果看到鱼在游啊，你就晓得悠游是讲什么，就不费力的跟自然完全合在一起。我想“自然”这两个字，原来在中国一拿起来说，就有2层的意义在。一层就是自自然然，就是你不假做作，所谓的乘兴而来，兴尽而返，何必见待？你原来一个念头想去访自己的老朋友。一路走，却忘记了两岸雪景、两岸的夜色。那么，访问朋友还可以下一次。这个当下的月色，却是人生唯一能把握的。
September through to February is a good time for orchid picking. Lanzhou Mountain in Zhejiang province became famous because of the legend that the king of the state of Yue, Goujian, planted an orchid there. Today's orchids are cultivated in greenhouses and are rarely picked in the mountains. Despite the name, wild orchid specimens are becoming scarce on their eponymous mountain. The early empire saw the organization of the township system with a series of courier stations linking them. There was a courier station near Lanzhou Mountain, known as the Orchid Pavilion. By the 4th century, it had fallen out of service and became part of the private garden of a wealthy man named Wang Xizhi. In the spring of 353, the 33-year-old Wang invited 42 men of letters to gather at his orchid pavilion. A stream zigzagged past the pavilion. Drinking games have always been popular in China, and the one played by the scholars that afternoon has passed into legend. Wine vessels were floated down the stream, and where they stopped, the nearest man had to compose a poem on the spot or drain the cup. 1400 years on the legend would inspire Emperor Qianlong's Xishang Pavilion in the Forbidden City. 37 poems were composed during the course of the afternoon and compiled into a collection named after the pavilion. Quite a feat when one considers that each forfeit would have contained over a pint of wine. Wang Xizhi wrote his preface to the Orchid Pavilion collection. He too was well in his cups. It goes, "A fine day with a warm breeze. I look up into the boundless universe and down to all creatures on earth. A sudden flash of human insight can bridge the centuries. The feeling and emotions expressed in the poetry of the Orchid Pavilion are as fresh and relevant today as they were 1700 years ago. Wang Xizhi's preface is not simply about the refined arts of poetry or calligraphy. It is a celebration of physical nature embodied in a flower and a specific location. The archetypes of Chinese romanticism in nature, the bamboo grove, the peach blossom spring, and the orchid pavilion were all established in this 100-year period from the mid-3rd to the mid-4th centuries. They were to have a profound and lasting influence of the spirit and principles of the Chinese garden ever after. The Chinese garden seeks to encapsulate the qualities of the natural world in an enclosed retreat space. Though highly stylized, it seeks an infinite variety in the careful arrangement of many different perspectives. It's a place of secret magic. As we age, we can recognize the eternal in nature's static flood of regeneration. The nature in the Tao, and the Tao in the nature.
人呐、到了现代文明，也主要是100来年的光阴，就是你抽离泥土，在我们那长远的1000万年中间，我们都是跟泥土在一起的。也就是到了近代文明，构建出一个比较自我封闭的世界之后，才会使得人能够看似最少外表看似离开自然而生存。可在我们的基因里，在我们长久的历史，无论从自然、从文化，你永远都是自然的一环。所以，回到自然其实是一个生命的一个重要的安顿之道了。这一点，古今统一。人人心底的桃花源，跟外在的这个所谓的大千世界，其实是同一件事。你如果这里面你有这一个，就刚刚在一花一叶之中，你就可以找到你桃花源所在。
In Tao Yuanming's story, a fisherman falls asleep in his boat and drifts downriver. When he wakes, he finds himself in a cave from which he emerges to find himself surrounded by blossoming peach trees. He rows his boat to shore and makes his way to the nearest village. The kind and friendly villagers who take him in live lives of pacific bliss and satisfaction. They have had no contact with the outside world for many generations. Eventually, the fisherman must take his leave, but he vows to his hosts to return. He leaves back through the peach forest and returns to his hometown with tales of this amazing newfound paradise. A paradise to which he never finds the way to return.